Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rising Stars. I'm your interim host, Shawn Watt. Don't worry, Michael will be back in the near future to take care of the rest of hosting these episodes. This production is sponsored by Urban Eats MTL. I have a very special guest on our show today. His name is Shawn Baichoo. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, Shawn.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's dive in. Okay,
Sure.
so your last name, that's very unusual. Are you born and raised in Montreal?
Yes, I was born and raised in Montreal,
Okay.
but my father is from British Guyana.
Oh, cool.
So the Guyanas in South America,
Yeah.
there's three of them.
I actually
French
lived
Guyana.
in South America, yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Cool, where?
Patagonia, Chile.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So Guyana is just next to Venezuela, I think, and there's
Like
British...
by Bolivia and all that, right?
the
There's like
northeastern coast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you have French Guyana, British Guyana, and Dutch Guyana, known
Okay.
as Suriname.
Yeah.
So sign of the colonial
A lot
times, if
going
you will.
on, yeah.
So my dad's from British Guyana, but
Okay.
his father is from India, from the northern region of India,
That is
called the
interesting,
Nagalaya
huh?
region. So
Yeah.
Baichoo technically is an Indian name.
Yeah.
My mom is French Canadian.
Okay.
And then on my dad's side, my father's father is Indian, and my grandmother on my father's side is half black and half Irish.
There's a lot going on.
So I'm half Quebecois,
Yeah.
French Canadian, 1/4 Indian, 1/8 black, 1/8 Irish.
Very
That's my
specific.
mix.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with
Yeah,
us.
so it's my friends say I'm very Canadian because I'm a mix of everything. You know what I mean?
Makes sense, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Look
Well,
around.
Canada's such a melting pot. you
Yeah.
know? And what's great, I think, about being such a kind of a vague ethnicity is if I put on the right dialect, put on the right,
Yeah.
appearance, I can pass for a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
too,
so
you know what
it's
I mean?
more broader. in terms
Yeah,
of
so I've
roles,
played all the
right?
way from, white French Canadian dudes to other ethnicities, through time, depending on what it is. We have to be more careful with that today because,
Yeah, I know
representation,
there's-
diversity. I don't want to step on anyone's toes or take their
someone get
jobs.
offended,
But
God
at the same
forbid.
time, I haven't come across a lot of parts for like half Guyanese dudes, right? It's not
Unless you write it yourself, right?
Exactly. So
There's a famous artist, though, in Canada. Her name's Anjali, and she's actually
Yeah.
Guyanese, right?
is she?
Guyanese, and yeah, she's
Okay.
Guyanese, which is very interesting, right?
Okay.
So now that you're bringing that up, take a look next time. She's
I-
Guyanese. She fully promotes herself and being proud of her culture and this and that.
I can't
It's
say
nice.
I have much of the culture in me because I was born here and I've
Yeah.
never visited.
Okay.
So I'm not very familiar with Guyanese culture.
No.
My culture is much more French Canadian, I'd say, than anything else.
Yeah.
But since I've been in the industry, there's two other actors I met who are both also from Guyana.
Cool.
And,
Yeah. What are the chances? Right?
And Guyana is very much like Canada. It's a melting pot of different ethnicities. You have Portuguese, you have Spanish, you have a lot of
course.
Indian, Pakistani, stuff.
British influence,
Yeah,
whatever else.
yeah. Well, colonial remnants, right?
So, getting to the main topic, you are an actor, voice actor, MoCap actor,
Yeah.
right? Sort of jack of all trades when it comes to the industry.
Sure.
When did that interest pique your interest to pursuing acting?
So to become an actor professionally,
Yeah. Or like, when did you just take that, that step where it's like, I want to be an actor. Okay, I'm going to go pursue it. Like, how did that come to be?
right? So my whole life, I've always been a very outgoing. I like entertaining. I like making people laugh.
Yeah.
I'm a funny guy. So as a kid, as a teenager, I always did that. And acting was my first drive. Like I wanted to be an actor from a very early stage.
Mm-hmm.
But my relationship to acting was very distant. Like I would see, Hollywood. I'd see, Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger, these huge stars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can never be that. And you're either that or you're nothing. The idea of a working actor was a bit of an alien concept to me because, in the media, all you see are stars, right?
Yeah.
The face of acting. But that's 1%, I think, or less than 1% of the industry. So I took a safe route. When I graduated high school, I had really good notes in biology and chemistry and physics and sciences. So I first started studying to become a scientist. I was going to
No
become
way.
a biochemist.
That's cool.
So I studied biochemistry, did that for about a year and a half, realized I wasn't happy, I didn't like it, and I really wanted to be an actor. So I switched. I switched from the CJEP I was at. I went to Dawson, professional theater program.
Okay.
They actually refused me on my first round of auditions.
What happened? It was just
I
like
was
you just
terrible.
bombed it?
I was
Okay.
terrible. I wasn't
Okay.
very good. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a huge lisp.
Did
I used
you?
to talk like this,
Yeah.
with a theorist impediment to acting if you say everything like this, try doing Shakespeare with this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because I got refused, I took other courses, acting-related courses in the creative arts program I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And through those courses, I learned quite a lot about acting. I took dramaturgy, improv, all that kind of stuff. And then I hadn't thought about continuing acting, and then one of my teachers, this wonderful woman named Barbara Kelly, she pulled me aside on one of the last days of school and said, I think you've improved quite a lot. I remember you from the auditions last year, and I think you've improved quite a lot. If you want, I can get you into the callbacks.
What'd you say?
If you want to, try out for the program. I said, yeah, I'd love to. I hadn't thought of reapplying here. So she got me to the callbacks. I did better, I guess. I'd learned enough from my electives classes.
But it also must have felt like bittersweet too, because you did get rejected, right?
Yeah.
So a part of you is like, yeah, now I'm showing you, this is what I was capable of.
Sure, and also it's kind of the true acting experience, because rejection is like part and parcel for what we do.
Oh,
right?
yeah, trust me, I know. Yeah.
We all do. So I got in, and they said, look, you're going to have to get rid of that lisp, though, because you can't be a full-on actor
quote-unquote successful. Right?
So I did. I went to the Montreal General. I got some speech therapy lessons and learned to pronounce S sounds properly.
Yeah.
And I got rid of it maybe 25 years ago. And, so got rid of my lisp, got into the program, and then went through the 3-year program, graduated. Then it was kind of the standard, got an agent not long afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I worked a waitering job for about 10 years while things were slowly kind of percolating and unraveling.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then about 10 years in, I actually messed up on my schedule, and I had a play I was doing, and I told my manager, like, look, I can't make it next week. I forgot to ask for time off. I have a play. And he's like, well, I'm not replacing you. Just choose. Pick your
Dream
play,
killer.
your play or the job. And I said, the play. I chose the play, not the job. Quit my job, and that's the last job I ever had in terms of a non-acting job. So from that point onwards, I just kind of started booking, a bit of work here and there, voice, a little bit of
that you
MoCap.
can live off of that.
And I was with my girlfriend at the time. I was not my wife, and she was great. She supported me for the first 10 years or so. Anytime I was like, look, this isn't working. I don't think I can be an actor. I'm going to go get a job. She was like, don't you dare. If you get a job, you're not going to focus on acting, which is what matters. Keep acting. I'll support you. And I owe her a lot for that. And then eventually my dream was I want to flip that. I want to support her to do what she wants. Yeah. And that's been my deal now for the last 10, 15 years. So I work quite a lot as an actor, enough to support my wife. I kind of able to pay her back that way, which is really nice. Really nice.
What are some of those earlier roles that you started booking when you got into it?
So usually little things, like a little bit of voice work on something, or.
Do you still remember that first role that you booked where it made you so
happy? I remember
happy?
The first union gig I ever booked. The first union gig was Reuben the Vampire on Big Wolf on Campus.
That topped mine.
Do you remember that show?
My Little Pony, an NPC.
That's pretty good, though. That's a good show.
Video game.
The game? Okay, even better. But the Big Wolf on Campus was a series that shot here many, many years ago about a werewolf who, it's like Teen Wolf. It's like based off of Teen Wolf.
Okay, yeah, I'm not from Montreal, so I don't know about the show.
It's about a werewolf, a guy who turns into a werewolf and his nerdy buddy.
Dramatic.
And he's going to high school, and at one point he comes across some rivals, the vampire gang, right? So we're like, I have a retainer.
So you're part of the vampire gang?
Yeah, a giant nerd with a retainer. It was pretty funny. A vampire with a retainer.
Really?
It was pretty funny.
That is.
And I had auditioned for the lead of that show. I was inexperienced, so it wasn't meant for me. No. But they liked me enough that they held me and
for like a smaller part or whatever.
Gave me a part.
Okay.
And then they brought me back on the show. So my second part was another character on the same show. In the next season, I was playing a Dungeons and Dragons game master / warlock, a guy who does magic and runs a D&D campaign.
So I guess physically you changed quite a bit because otherwise they would recognize, weren't you the guy in the first
what they
season?
did for this is actually quite interesting. Is it's a bit of a non-linear path actually, but I'm sure you can think of a lot of parts you've done where you're like, I only got this part through this roundabout series of events.
Sometimes,
you know what I mean? Yeah. It's never direct cause and effect. You know what I mean?
No.
So they often had a villain of the week in this show, where the werewolf guy, his name was Tommy, would face like vampires
Yeah.
or a ghost
Yeah.
or
Some folklore monster
exactly,
or whatever.
monster of the week type of thing.
Yeah.
So one week they had the Cable Guy, like a cable guy based off of Jim Carrey's Cable
That's
Guy.
crazy, man.
right?
I mean,
And when I was in high school, and also, when I was in theater school, I did a lot of Jim Carrey impersonations.
Nice.
I was always doing the,
Ace Ventura,
that
man.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
I used to do it all the time. It was like my signature thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, Cable Guy. I'll play him like the Cable Guy,
Yeah.
like the Jim Carrey guy. So I did this incredible like improv audition where I just did like 14 different characters, but with that kind of Jim Carrey energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the director called me, which is rare, and he said, look, I love your audition, but we can't cast you because we have someone else in mind, but I'd love you to come back next week for the next villain, this D&D Game Master guy, and I want you to take that energy from the
from
Cable
the
Guy
audition,
and
yeah.
put it onto the dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I did so I kind of did that kind of, that thing, which I wasn't crazy about. Like, I don't like imitating existing acts, you know what I mean? But I was a very young actor at the time. And then I show up on set and we do a take. And I'm like, okay, now that I have the part, I'm gonna make it my own.
Yeah.
And I do it, and he's like, cut! He's like, where's the Jim Carrey? Do Jim Carrey. I want Jim Carrey. Like, be him. So the whole shoot, I was just kind of mugging and doing that thing, which, pays the bills.
It did for the first gig, yeah.
But, exactly. But it wasn't maybe, the most artistically fulfilling role. But, you have a lead, you're a guest star on a show. That's pretty cool, too.
That's pretty sick, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the first gig I think I remember getting as an actor was being on
Yeah,
campus.
I remember auditioning for my first guest starring role. I was out of Calgary for Winona Earp.
I know someone who's on that show, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I remember doing that first audition, and it wasn't overwhelming because when you audition for the bigger roles, they give you more of a character breakdown.
Yeah.
There's way more detail, less question marks. Beautiful, easy, right?
A little less freedom, though, to be
Yeah,
interpretive.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that's the yin and yang.
Well, I find that's really changed the relevancy of that over the years because we've gone from, at least in Montreal, we've gone from, in-town auditions to self-taping everything. Right?
Yeah.
Like I have maybe 2 in-person auditions a year, and I do maybe 60, 70 self-tapes a year. Everything is self-tapes now.
I would prefer in person, to be honest. I like
Me too.
it. It's
I need to
genuine.
be with the director. I want to feel their energy.
Yeah.
I want to see
Their
their connection, their
It's just the
vibe,
vibe, right?
and their ability to shape your performance, especially if you're close. To me, that's
Mm-hmm.
really invaluable. On a self-tape, my biggest strength is also my biggest weakness. Like my biggest strength as an actor is I'm very modest. No, I'm very versatile. I can do a lot of different things. I can play a lot of different characters. I can work in a lot of different mediums, MoCap, stunts, theater, whatever. So that versatility to me is super important, and that's kind of like my calling card.
Yeah.
But the drawback of that is that when I see a part, I could play it 6 different ways, and I'm not going to do 6 different takes of something.
no, you
right?
need to-
So I'll make a choice, send it in, and there's a chance I'll be so far off the mark. Whereas with the director, they could be like, "Ooh, I like your energy, but let's try this. Let's do
Let's
that."
take the character over
and
here, right?
work with
Yeah.
them. And the few times I've had in-person auditions in Montreal, my booking percentage is much higher than self-tapes.
Yeah.
Like I get 1 out of maybe 12 to 20 self-tapes, maybe.
Yeah.
In terms of bookings, whereas in person it was 1 in 2, 1 in 3.
Pretty high percentages
Yeah.
too, right?
But they're very targeted auditions. you
Yeah,
know?
of course, specific, right?
But to me, being in the room is part of it, So, but the downside of that is I now live on the North Shore.
Yeah.
I bought a house up there 2 years ago. So everything I do in town, I got to commute,
I know.
traffic.
And that's just another
it's a pain in
hassle.
the ass. And I don't want to travel
Well-
an hour and 15 minutes in traffic, get to the audition place, go in and leave 20 minutes
Yeah,
later,
yeah.
and drive an hour back home. So usually I try to pack things together in the same day if I'm coming into town.
Well,
but look, it's an occupational hazard.
What
guess,
I would say is when it comes to callbacks through Zoom, I feel like it's just so lifeless. When the reader is doing their thing, and I'm like, this is awful.
That's
You
even
know?
worse than a self-tape.
Yeah, it's awful.
To me, you'll never have worse conditions as an actor
Yeah.
than a Zoom callback.
I know.
Right.
There's a delay on their response. You're waiting, and it shows. It
Also,
really
it's much
shows.
easier for them to say, yeah, we'll do 30 callbacks. Sure.
Yeah.
You don't do 30 callbacks in a day because you got to book the room, book
Yeah.
the times. People have to travel.
Yeah.
You got to go.
It's one every half hour.
Yeah,
right?
and unfortunately, I won't name the production, but I
No.
have the feeling that on occasion they use this system to kind of take advantage of actors a bit. Because here, in Canada, when a foreign production
Like comes here to
comes
to
here,
film, yeah.
ACTRA insists that they see a certain number of Canadian talent.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So they don't just come take advantage of our tax breaks and our crews, which
Yeah.
are great. But you have to see some dudes. They don't have to hire them, they have to see them,
Yeah.
right? So I auditioned last year, and they're like, oh, it's for the lead bad guy in a movie.
Okay.
And I'm like, cool, but I've never played a lead in a movie, ever. It's not my thing, okay? And I'd love to play a bad guy, but I don't do big parts in cinema.
Yeah, you prefer something a
I'm
little bit
more of a supporting
smaller
character.
and-
I'll
yeah.
do it, but I play supporting characters, or I play leads in independent films usually.
Yeah.
But it's rare that a show or a movie, it's never happened, will
Yeah.
come and say, you're the main guy.
Yeah.
So I was a little skeptical. I said, okay, I'll do a self-tape. So I did a self-tape, sent it in. And then a week later, like, hey, you have a callback. I'm like, I have a callback for the lead bad guy in a movie? That's great, but something about it seemed a bit weird to me.
Yeah.
But look, I'm not going to say no. So spent all day prepping.
Just a lot of red flags, though.
Yeah, a lot of red flags. I learned the scene, I learned my lines. I get my wife to be my camera person. I
Yeah.
get my buddy from downstairs, my neighbor, to come be my reader.
Yeah.
Black out the living room, set everything up.
Eye lines, yeah.
Eye line, practice, ready to go. Oh my God, here's my big chance. They let me into the room, the virtual room, and then the director comes on, and here, I'll just be the director, and you're Shawn, you're
Yeah.
me, and he's like, hi there, sorry, what's your name again? Shawn, cool. Hi, Shawn, nice to meet you, thanks for doing this. Sorry, who are you reading for again?
Oh.
And I'm like, he doesn't know who I'm reading for, and he doesn't know my name, and I'm a callback? Come on.
Yeah.
So my guess is, I did the scene, he's like, great, next scene, great, no notes, thank you, done.
Yeah.
It was get him out of here,
Cold, yeah.
right? And it's not because I'm a bad actor. So I think they wanted to cast this, do some of it in Montreal or in Vancouver, wherever they were shooting,
Yeah.
and they had to see a number of people. So for them, it's like, yeah, Shawn, John, Peter, come on.
Just throw anybody in.
We'll lose half a day of casting because none of these people stand a chance.
Yeah.
And while I understand that, it's, it's my time, my preparation,
I know.
all that's just out the window. And it's not the first time that happens.
There's
it happens
all
on
the
occasion.
X factors that go into preparing even for a small audition.
Yeah.
I go through it. You've gone through it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and that would be heartbreaking for me personally. I think that's.
It left a very bitter taste in my mouth, but at the
course.
same time, I don't want to seem entitled or bitter, because maybe I did have a shot, right? Maybe it was legit.
Who knows?
Who
Yeah,
knows?
who
I mean, I
knows?
didn't get the part,
Yeah.
clearly. But it does happen on occasion. It's happened with Voice too, where they had me come in. They don't give you a lot to prepare. Then they lay a ton of stuff on you while you're there, so that you
Yeah.
don't do so well. And then like, okay, thanks for coming in. And then I see the game come out that I auditioned for, and like the guy playing the part I auditioned for is Troy Baker. I'm like, well, okay, Troy Baker is like a celebrity when it comes to video games. He's like royalty. He's like Tom Cruise for voice actors. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I'm like, they wanted him, but they had to go through ACTRA to say none of these people fit the bill. Now,
Yeah.
can we fly this guy in from New York,
Yeah,
from LA,
yeah.
from
So it's all a
England?
business kind of thing at the
so
end
it's
of the
business
day,
stuff.
right?
But
Yeah.
that's part of the waters you have to navigate.
Yeah.
And I have friends who've gotten like massive opportunities by taking these kind of chances too. You know? So I don't want to seem bitter. I'm like, oh, I didn't get the
No,
part,
no,
so it must be a scam.
I think it's gonna be.
But sometimes,
it's like
sometimes
a
I do wonder though.
used car salesman coming to you. Hey, there's your Ferrari. That's a Honda Civic. What are you talking about? Right?
But it's
But
it's
you
an
might find
occupational
that golden
hazard, though.
chicken one time, you know? And
Exactly.
it's like you
And
just.
I'm a
commit.
big believer in leave a good impression.
Of course.
Leave it all on the table, come in, give your best, leave a good impression. Even if you don't get the part you were there for, you might get something tangential. Or they might just remember you. Like I've booked a lot of jobs in my life where I show up on set and the director is a guy who was like way lower on the totem pole when I worked with him. He was like a technician or like a sound
Like
guy.
the editor or something,
Or the
you know?
editor
Yeah.
or like the animation assistant. And now he's shoot director or floor director. And when they have a project come in, they go, Shawn, I'd like to work with him. I worked with him on this project. He was great. You know, that to me is super valuable too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
So it's not about. It's who you know as well, right?
in part,
Because-
I wouldn't
yeah.
say my whole career is based off of nepotism.
No,
I really
no.
do think I've earned all the jobs that I get.
Like-
but
Like you treat the crew member, no matter what position that they're doing,
always.
genuinely
Always.
with
There's
love,
no room
and
for
you know what I
egos
mean?
on
No,
sets.
exactly.
I hate that shit.
And
man.
those that have the egos, man, they're the ones that you'll find that are struggling mentally, you know, out of work and this and that, and they belittle people. Let's be honest,
well,
right?
good example is Big Wolf on Campus.
Yeah.
When I showed up for my first day, it was one of the first episodes that we're shooting of the entire series, so everyone was kind of new.
Mm-hmm.
The two leads were like, "Oh my God, this is great, nice to meet
Yeah.
you." They were grateful, they were humble. I'm like, cool, you know, and I was like that too.
Yeah.
I came back, that was September. I came back in January for the other part, for Warlock.
For like second season, right?
And they were like yelling at people, being all shitty, complaining to the caterers, saying like, "Oh, we're having swordfish." But like, "Can you go to McDonald's and get me a Big Mac?" I'm like,
They changed.
"We're having swordfish. Like, it's swordfish."
Yeah.
And they had really changed. They had become these like kind of entitled, kind of rude.
Like kind of brats.
Like
huh?
the gratitude was gone,
Yeah.
in a sense. They were
Yeah.
taking it for granted. Whereas, you know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and every job I book, no matter how big or how small, it doesn't matter to me. It's always, I'm grateful, I'm working. You know, a lot of actors don't work, so
That's how I am, man.
you gotta be, you know, and you know, when you're on set, if you think about it, without sounding like I'm being, you know, solipsistic
of
or
course.
the world revolves around me,
Yeah.
but when you're on set, anyone, me, you, when you're on set, technically, kind of everyone there is kind of there for you in a sense, right? She's gonna do your hair, he's gonna do your makeup, they're gonna do your costumes, this PA is gonna drive
make
you
your
and
job
pick you up,
easier.
they're
That's-
gonna
that's,
feed
you
you,
know.
they're gonna direct you, they're gonna, you know, like, they're all there to help you do your thing. So I understand how some actors, that can go to their head because
Yeah.
they start thinking they're special or they're unique, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas I see it as like, look, we're all part of a team here. And, you know, anytime I think a day is long or I'm bored, it's like, okay, so go to your trailer, go have a snack, take a nap, you're getting paid for your time here.
Yeah.
And all those people were here before you, and they're gonna leave after you're done.
Exactly.
Right? So what are you complaining about, right? No, I think gratitude is a very
One of the important keys.
important currency to have when it comes
Yeah.
to acting.
Gratitude and just passion and love for the craft.
Passion,
And that-
gratitude, professionalism as well. Like
Yeah.
be on time, be punctual, be respectful. you
Yeah.
know. But I find, you know, those being kind of the hallmarks of what I try to espouse all the time, it does come back to me. It does.
Yeah.
Always in the most unexpected ways. Like, for example, I'm working on a project right now. I don't think I can talk about the name of it,
No,
but
don't.
the guy in charge of the casting, the audio part, the voice part, he got in touch with me last year, said, look, I'm casting this game. Can you help me cast it and suggest actors? But also, can you come in for the demo and play a bunch of different characters? Because he knew I'm very versatile, I'm very
Yeah.
adaptable. So
Yeah.
I did like 12 characters for the game, for all the demo stuff. I played a bunch of monsters and demons and stuff
sick.
like that.
Yeah,
it was
that's
super
cool,
fun.
Yeah.
Did all that, right? He's like, okay, this is the placeholder stuff. We're gonna come back next year, we're gonna do actual recording, and we'll give you some parts, some real parts. But for now, thanks for, you know, helping us out.
Yeah.
So that rolled around this year. He's like, okay, let's cast the game. So I helped him, directed him to some agents, some actors he could use.
Yeah.
And then, I'm doing that next week. I'm going to be recording that, which is super fun. And then, completely separately, a couple months ago, I got an email from an old acquaintance of mine that I shot a commercial with and that I worked with at Ubisoft briefly. Again, people who were lower on the totem pole at the time.
But that have risen up.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey man, I'm doing MoCap for this video game internally for some demo scenes. Can you come be my MoCap guy? I'm like, yeah man, absolutely. I'd love to, right? So he sends me the script. I start, you know, learning my lines. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is a lot of the same language and character names as the voice thing I'm working on for that
Yeah.
other game.
Yeah.
And I realized it was the same game.
See that?
So two separate people went out, because I asked him, like, oh, you probably hired me because you spoke to the sound guy. He's like, I don't even know who that is. He says, I hired you because I know you and I think you're great and I want to work with you."
Crazy, right?
So two independent people who never spoke to each other both hired me for different aspects of the production of the same
But the same project.
project. Right? And I'm not saying that to brag, it's just,
No.
I'm so incredibly flattered
Yeah,
that
it-
on sound they're like, who could, oh, Shawn. And then on MoCap they're like, oh, who could, Shawn. And right, so when it's like stunt fighting or stuff, like all these different categories that I've
Done.
that I'm passionate
Yeah.
about and that I'm known for, they all open up venues of potential work for me.
Yeah.
So between that, leaving a good impression with a good audition, and then just leaving a good impression on the people you work with.
Yeah, part of that is just being you as well, right? If you're
Yeah.
just a likable person who has
I
a
try
charm
to
and a
be.
certain, je ne sais quoi about you, people are gravitated towards that energy, man.
Sure, and when you're going
People
to have
like
to
it.
spend 8, 10, 12, 14 hours on set with someone, you don't want them to be a jerk. Right? If you can't
kidding?
stand someone and you're stuck with them for 14 hours on a shoot,
There are some
For 2
individuals that
months?
have changed since I've started acting, where they were so humble and now they had like a minor part in this project, and now they're like, oh, now that you get somewhere, they're all coming after you, and I'm like, you didn't even do anything relevant, like, and now you're suddenly thinking you're like this big hotshot, and I'm like, that's disgusting.
but that's not sustainable though.
No.
I find, because people don't want to work with you, and you have to be phenomenally talented to get away with that kind of thing, right? If you're
like
super,
exceptional status.
but if you're exceptionally good, you can be a dick to people, and you shouldn't, but still you
Shouldn't.
can keep your job.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm a bad actor, but I'm going to put all the cards on my side, all the chips
Yeah.
on my side. You know what I mean? I'll be nice
Yeah.
on top of being,
Yeah.
as talented as
You'll
I
go
can
all
be.
in.
Yeah, I go all in with everything, exactly. And it's about generosity and patience, and it's a stressful enough environment when you're working in film, whether it's film or MoCap or voice or whatever.
So, I do have a question, and it's sort of been a conversation I had with a previous guest. I'm sure you've read in the news that Joaquin Phoenix dropped out of his film that he was producing. He wrote.
Is it recently?
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear about this.
3 days ago. So
Okay.
he dropped out of a film that he was producing, writing, and he was supposed to be the lead actor in. He was supposed to portray a gay lover in the in the movie where he would have to do
was that something I was
some.
going to shoot here?
No,
Why does that
no,
sound
that's
familiar?
called Beau's Afraid.
Yes.
That already
I'm-
filmed here.
That I'm getting confused
Yeah.
with Beau was Afraid. That's when he was
So
in
this
town.
is
Okay.
recent.
Okay.
So set to shoot in like LA and Mexico. Entire sets were built. The crew, they were ready to go. And I guess he said, quote unquote, he had cold feet. Now, as a professional actor, take us through maybe the steps that he went through. The way that I see it is, okay, first of all, if he's a producer, writer, and lead actor, he knows what to expect when it comes to those raunchy sex scenes.
Sure.
Portraying a gay lover. The other aspect is the mental aspect. He has to live through this experience vividly with an on-set coordinator, and maybe that's why he got cold feet, right? Was like, how can I get over
Maybe,
that through
yeah.
time, or maybe he wouldn't be able to get over it, although he's portrayed a gay lover in the past.
Look, I don't know anything about the production. I certainly don't know Joaquin
Yeah.
Phoenix, but
Look into it after. Yeah.
my speculation would probably, especially someone as accomplished as he is,
yeah.
my guess is it probably has more to do with like logistical or technical things than necessarily I don't want to
Yeah.
make
of
out what
course.
to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I find someone like him who's so like he's such a
Committed.
good actor and committed. He doesn't seem like someone would have a lot of hang-ups. I mean, look what he did to himself to play Joker, for example. You know what I mean? He starved
Yeah.
himself and all that. And like, as it relates to me, one of my attitudes towards acting is I have very few boundaries in terms of boundaries that can't be crossed.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to be taken advantage of.
No.
But often I view something that I view a little, if something scares me or I'm a little like reticent, often I take that as a sign that I should confront that fear. Right? Like if I'm afraid of doing this, I should do it.
Yeah.
Because life is telling me there's something to be gained by going through this experience.
Yeah.
Right? If I only do things that are safe for me all the time, right? What do I learn? How do I grow? So, someone once did a shoot for this local paper that doesn't exist anymore called The Mirror. They wanted to recreate that famous scene in the Spider-Man movie when he's hanging upside down in the rain.
Yeah.
And he kisses
And he
Mary
kisses
Jane,
Mary Jane,
right?
yeah.
So there's like a local celebrity here called Plastic Patrick.
Okay.
I think he's a he. I don't think he's. I'm not sure what his pronouns are, but
Yeah.
he's like a drag. He dresses in drag, but he's very, very feminine. Like he's a good-looking guy, good shape. But he's not trans or anything. It's he's like I think he identifies as male, but he has this whole like female glam persona to him.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, Shawn, you have a Spider-Man costume. We saw you at Comic-Con a
Oh,
few
no.
years ago.
Yeah.
Do you want to play Spider-Man and be upside down and kiss Plastic Patrick?" And I was like, "That could be a cool photo, right?" So I did it. I went. They gave me a harness. I hung upside down.
Yeah.
And kissed me a couple times, and I wasn't like, "Oh, I don't want to kiss a guy."
No.
I'm straight, but it was such a unique experience
Yeah.
for me. I kind of wanted to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And the cover turned out great. It was an iconic cover for the
I mean,
I
part
have
of
it
the
framed in my
experience,
office,
cool.
you know.
Yeah,
I have it
see?
hanging in my office.
There
so
you go.
I'm glad I did it, you know what I mean?
But that's vaguely different from doing something extreme in terms
But
of
of course, it
sexual
wasn't a
act.
sex scene
Right,
with a man, which I
like-
think I'd have a harder time with.
Yeah.
But even then, like,
Yeah.
I believe that's why I say, like, my boundaries don't apply when it comes to art.
No.
Like, I have very few hang-ups. Life, I have tons of boundaries, of
Of
course, you know what I
course,
mean? But
yeah.
when it comes to art, I feel very free to, like, explore. So when I'm with someone else who's the same way, like, that's great, you know.
Then it's the same wavelength at that point.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and ACTRA
It's-
understandably has intimacy coordinators now and stuff, which I think is super important because
That should have been there a long time ago.
oh, absolutely,
But I mean,
absolutely.
hey,
They had it for fights, but never had it for
there's
like
yeah,
intimacy.
exactly, which is really weird, right? Unfortunately, we're about to wrap up the show, so I want
All
to
right.
ask you one last question. If I was the producer and director of your dreams, and I had a plain piece of paper here, and I could write any role of your choice, past, present, or future, what would you choose, and what would you sign at the bottom there?
Oh man, that's a great question.
Yeah. Like dream. Think of the first thing that comes to the top of your mind. Usually, that's the most accurate.
It'd probably have to be something superhero related. I'm guessing.
Superhero?
I love Marvel. I love those movies.
Like who?
I love The Punisher. I'm a big fan of The
Punisher.
Punisher. I actually made a fan film of The Punisher.
That's
You
cool.
should check it out, actually.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
I produced it myself.
Yeah.
I choreographed the whole thing. I play The Punisher. I helped edit it. I co-directed. I co-wrote it. I was a big fan.
Yeah.
Turned out really well, too. 18-minute film, good violence, good action,
Yeah.
good story. So that's something I kind of made happen for myself, because those aren't the kind of parts I get. But I love playing villains. So
Nice.
I would love to play a juicy, like, fully realized, like a Thanos type of character. I mean,
or
Josh
like
Brolin did an incredible job as
Galactus.
Thanos.
You could do Galactus, right?
I know who's playing Galactus. My buddy Ralph.
Nice.
I worked with him on Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
He got cast as Galactus, which is incredible because he has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, a villain of some kind.
I would want to.
No one really comes to mind off the top of my head, but
Yeah, I would say for myself, I enjoy most roles, but for the Marvel universe or it's DC, Carnage. I would want to do a Carnage origin story.
oh yeah, that'd be pretty good actually.
I know.
I think I'd make a good Victor Zsasz too from
You
Batman.
could do like,
right?
you could do that as well.
Cover my body in
or
scars,
Yeah.
bald head. You know what I mean?
You could do Vision. Paul Bettany did Vision. I could see
He
you
did a
doing-
great job though. as
But
Vision.
you could do like a Vision gone rogue.
On what? Sorry.
Gone rogue. Someone who turns evil.
But if I
Because
had
he is a robot, right?
he's
He's
an-
vibranium,
He's a
isn't he?
synthezoid, technically.
Sorry, he's a synthesoid, but he's made out of vibranium.
Yes, he is.
All right? So his rewiring gets crossed. There you go, man.
I should talk to Kevin Feige. He told me he said.
There you go.
And as much as I love film and TV, my favorite medium to work in though is video games.
Yeah.
So if I had my dream role would be to play a villain in a game. In a
Sweet.
video
Yeah,
game. I
nothing
came
wrong
close a
with
few
that, man.
times.
Yeah.
I came close in Far Cry 6 to getting a good villain part.
Yeah.
They cast me as a doctor instead. But it's what I'm always working at to eventually kind of cover that.
Like, hey guys, let's
well,
do
I
this.
love the escapism of playing a villain, right? Because
Yeah.
I live as a pretty decent, nice person, I think, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I love being able to experience other slices of humanity, if you will,
Yeah.
safely, through acting. I'm not saying I want to know what it's like to choke someone to death, but I'm saying exploring these aspects of humanity safely, through the
Yeah.
lens of acting.
It's very intriguing.
That's why I do it in a sense, because it allows me. I love playing and discovering, new aspects of being alive in a sense.
Yeah.
So villains to me are so far removed from my everyday experience. You know what I mean? That's why
Yeah.
they have a special place for me.
Cool, man. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
your
Shawn. It was a
time.
great, conversation.
Shawn,
I
it was
wish I had
so
more time.
awesome.
So are you.
Thank you guys for tuning in and watching this great episode with Shawn Baichoo. I'm your interim host, Shawn Watts. This production is sponsored by Urban Eats MTL. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. So great to have you here, man.
Thanks, man.
I
Thanks
hope
for
to
having
see
me.
you on set again.
I am positive we'll work
awesome.
together one day.
I'm sure.
Now that we've met, it's gonna happen.
Manifest it.
Yeah, exactly. Make it happen.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. All right, cheers.
Yeah.